Hey, you know what's funnier than part one? Part two. So our little goon platoon, having come to the barracks, stops for a moment and has an honest discussion about whether or not they should break in. They decide against it. However, I really wanted them to break in. I thought it would be really funny because then everyone get arrested. I'm joshing, of course. Regardless of what could have been, what did happen is they found another set of tracks, the same ones leading in, those same fancy boots. And it leads to the lodge, which they know is kind of one of the exits of town other than the two guard posts and the docks. But that's not relevant. What is relevant is that they followed the tracks further into the woods, and it led into the north direction. And they knew that in that direction there isn't much. A couple villages and a couple abandoned mines. And they put their heads together, did some research, and were like, hey, the most likely place for a person who kidnaps some people would probably be some abandoned mines. So they start heading out. However, before they do that, they have one issue. Toyser. Now I hear you asking, why is that a problem? What's the issue with Toyser? His father, that's what, his adoptive father. They know that the mines are a 2 days journey northward, and how are they going to convince his dad to take him on a little trip? Actually, it's very easy. They just tell him he's going camping. Bye! So they head out. I'm joking, it was really tense, but we're going to gloss over that. As they're heading out, they're stopped by Fran Nimbletoe, who's a bit of a how do I put it, investigator around town, and she's like, hey, Zen, halfling and a halfling, here's a flare. There's some fellas on your side. We're not all under the thumb of Dolrin. Let us know if you need help. And Zen's like, neat, we're gonna be 2 days out. This is useless. Thanks. She doesn't actually say that, but I'm sure that's what that was thought. And they have a little journey on the first night of rest. They see a little raven that gets Jar's attention. Extremely intelligent, and Jar uses ranger powers to talk to it. It says there's a friend nearby. So naturally, Jar awakens the rest of the party and end up finding a large man in the woods, about 6.5 feet tall, with alabaster pale skin and shockingly storm gray eyes and a mat of curled brown hair. The individual doesn't remember his name or anything, other than the fact that he remembers being in a very spooky, warm place and then ending up here, and very much in pain. They notice a similar scar around both creature's legs, the man and the bird, in a sort of a branding chain sort of wrap around the legs. Having amnesia and not knowing his name, they decide to call him Geth. And so Geth, very thankful for being saved by the goon platoon, decides to accompany them for the time being. And across those 2 days, they bond with their new friend and end up finding the abandoned mining village without too much issue. They do come privy to the fact that they have been followed, however, and work to throw the others off their trail using Lena's Earth Ganassi powers to pass without trace and avoid detection. They find a couple buildings that are still intact. The rest haven't been blown over or destroyed from, well, weather and age. And in the second one, there's not much of interest in the first one other than a misspelled sheriff badge, which Toyser promptly grabs and is now the sheriff of this town. They find a couple goats, suspicious, and in the back room, a couple mercenaries. Well, what seem to be mercenaries. Fellas in darkened armor with a crest on their pauldrons. Sort of like a D and a backwards D, if that makes sense. Or like a more blocky infinity symbol. And they're like, this is not good. Maybe these people took the kids. So, they decide to ambush now, ask questions later. And that they do, all together, surrounding the area without being detected, with Zenrana jumping in through the doorway and everyone following suit. They attack, and the session concludes.